Hey, it's me, Crystal, and today I'm going to show you two different ways to make this macrame wristlet keychain. For both of these keychains, I used some 5mm single strand cotton cord. It's just in the color natural. And I used a 1.5-inch lobster clasp keyring for both of these. I started with two pieces of cord that were 84 inches long each. And then we're just going to take one of them and fold it in half and attach it to our key ring with a lark's head knot. And we're going to adjust it so the center cords are going to be shorter than the outer cords once we get both of our cords attached. But first, we're just going to go ahead and get this on here. And then I'm going to put the other one on the same way with a lark's head knot. And once you get them both attached, we're going to take the two center cords and we're going to make sure that they are about 17 inches long, and then the outer cords are just way longer. And then you're just going to pin that down or tape it down to your workspace. And you'll see the center cords here are much shorter, so they should look like that, and then your outer cords will be a lot longer. And what we're going to do now is just tie some square knots. So you're going to take the left cord and bring it over the two center cords. Bring the right cord in front of that and then bring it behind the two center cords and through the loop on the left. And when you tighten this, we're going to leave about a 2-inch space at the top from the ring, and that's where our wrapping knot will go. So you want to make sure it's at least about 2 inches. So I wasn't quite big enough here and I made it a little bit bigger because you want plenty of room for that wrapping knot. And then we're going to do the other half of our square knot. So you do it in reverse, bring the right cord over the center cords, bring the left cord back behind and through the loop, and then tighten it up. And just make sure your top of your knot is where you want it, and then tighten it, and then that'll kind of solidify where your keychain starts. Then once you get that knot done, you're just going to continue tying square knots until you have 25 all together. Our goal here is to get about an 11-inch long sennet of square knots and have about 4 inches of cord left over at the end to attach it together. And we'll need that to fold it up and over and make a nice secure wristlet that won't come apart on us later. So just continue tying your square knots. If your cord gets kind of frayed, just twist it up as you go. This kind of cord can do that, but for the most part, when you're tying a sennet of knots like this, it hides it pretty well. Continue that until you get your 25 knots complete. All right, here I have my 25 knots done. And you'll see that the knotted part is about 11 inches long. And then at the top, we have our 2-inch space here. And then at the bottom, you'll have at least about 4 inches of cord left, or you should. And your working cords will have a little bit extra besides that. So now to finish off this wristlet keychain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim the working cords so they're even with the filler cord. So they're all about roughly 4 inches long. And we're going to feed those cords through the key ring at the top where we attached with the lark's head knots before. We're just going to stuff these right through there and make sure you kind of keep them nice and flat. And here's how it'll look. And we're going to line up the knotted part and we're going to put some glue here just to really make it secure, because we're going to tie a wrapping knot around this whole thing. But I have found that these work better if you put a little glue in here before you tie the wrapping knot, and that really helps hold it all together. So then just fold the ends of the cords down over. And then it'll look like this at this point. And now you're going to take your 30-inch long piece of cord, and we're just going to hold the whole thing. And I'm going to work on the back side so I don't end up getting the frayed ends like stuck up where I'm pulling the cord. And we're going to make a wrapping knot. So you make this U shape with your cord like this, and hold it in place with your thumb while you wrap around. And we want to wrap until the whole space is filled in. So it's several wraps, like 7 or 8 or 9 wraps. but just keep wrapping until you get all the way down to where the knots start. That way there's not a gap. And try to keep it neat. It'll look a lot better if you keep it nice and, don't overlap or anything. Once you get that done, you just stick the end down through that loop, pull the top cord until it brings that end of the cord up into under the wraps, and then just trim off the excess from the wrapping cords. Once you trim it off, you just take the end of your scissors and poke the little short ends up underneath. And make sure you do it for both sides, and you'll have probably some extra ends on the side from where we folded our ends over. And that's it. It's done, and this is a nice sturdy keychain. It fits really well on your wrist. It's not too small. And I have one of these that I've been using for like 3 years now, and it's held up perfectly well. Okay, for the next one, we're going to do the same thing. We got the same key ring, except for we're starting with two 30-inch long cords, and these are going to be our center cords. So these are our short cords. You're just going to fold them straight, or insert them and fold them in half. We're not doing a lark's head knot, we're just threading them through the key ring. And then you're going to take your other two cords, which are 60 inches long, and you're going to thread one of them through on the right side, and then just fold it in half. And then you're going to take the other one and thread it through on the left side. So you have a 60-inch cord on the left and on the right, and then the two center cords are your 30-inch cords. And they're all folded in half evenly. Like that. And then you have the other side on the back. So first we're going to just take each cord and we're going to twist it so that so there's like a little loop there that kind of like, so the back cord goes to the front and the front cord goes to the back. And you're just going to repeat that for each one. And it's kind of fiddly, you gotta hold them in place, but once we get these set up, we can pin it all in place and get our knots tied. So there we go, now we've traded, so the back cords are all on the front now, and the front cords are all on the back, and they're all done the same way. So then just lay it down. I'm using a macrame board, which is very convenient, and you can just pin everything right down to it. Or you could tape it down if you are just using a desk and you have some tape, that'll also work. But you just don't want it to move on you while you're tying your first knot. So once you get that pinned down, go ahead and tie your first square knot. You're going to be kind of careful with this first one so you don't pull all the cords out of place. Tie it right up next to where those pins are, but don't pull too tight. And then go ahead and finish off this knot. And once you get the first knot tied on each side, it'll hold it in place and you can just go ahead and tie the rest normally. But I went ahead and did that knot, and then I went ahead and decided to tie one more square knot just to really make sure it was anchored in place. And now we're going to flip it around to the other side and get that side anchored in place as well. I just kind of moved the pins and moved everything around so I could work on the side. And then go ahead and do the same thing over here. You're going to tie one square knot, or I end up tying two, just like to do the same thing on both sides. And then once you get that done, you can just stay on the side and tie the rest of the square knots, and then flip it around to the other side and do the same thing on that side. So now we have both sides anchored in, and we're going to go ahead and finish tying our square knots, and you're going to do 12 square knots on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and get my 12 done on this side, and then I'll flip it around and do my 12 square knots on the other side. So here I've got my 12 done over here. Now I'm just going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other end. 12 here and then 12 here. All right, I got them all tied. And now I'm unpinning it from the board. Move that aside, and here's what we have at this point. So now we're going to tie a wrapping knot at the base down there. Again, I'm grabbing a 30-inch long cord, and I'm just going to tie a wrapping knot. And this one won't have to be as long. It's just going to be like 5 wraps or whatever you think looks good. It's up to you. Make sure everything is even so it looks nice and neat. And then go ahead and do your wrapping knot. Once you get the wrapping knot looking the way you want it to look, go ahead and thread the end of the cord through the loop at the bottom. Then pull the short cord at the top, and then kind of pull the one at the bottom again and get it all nice and neat. And you just pull it up under the wraps, and then cut off the excess cord from the wrapping knot. Then just poke the short ends up underneath the wraps again, carefully. You don't want to poke yourself. Then I like to take each cord and just give it a pull to even out any slack or whatever in there so everything is laying really nice. And now we just have to cut the excess cord here at the bottom so it's even. I just go with the shortest cord and use that as my guide. And then brush out the little tassel at the bottom. And I like to give it another trim. It always kind of gets messy after you brush it. And there you go. That is the finished second version of the wristlet keychain. It has a fun tassel on it and is just a little bit different of a design, but it functions pretty much the same way. And here's the 2 finished keychains. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching!